ITW Soundworx. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of ITW's podcast Soundworx. This episode will be the first in a series where we will be interviewing some of the company's key decision makers and pick their brains about a variety of subjects in the realms of sports, entertainment and media. Today we're joined by a very special guest, Mr. Raja Chakraborty. Raja sir has been in charge of sports sponsorship and brand strategy at the company for almost a decade now. Welcome sir.
Thank you.
So we'll get straight into it sir. So before we get started, if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself and where you started your journey in sport and sponsorship.
Since my school days, being brought up in a defense campus environment, my father was serving our country with the Indian Air Force, and it has always instigated the O of sports in my blood, only to have grown further with age till date. Sports has always helped to instill the zeal for teamwork to develop, and thus my zest for client engagement, business networking, sports marketing and branding, sponsorship procurement and alliances, market research, concept amalgamation for brand and marketing activities, where the element of sports, business and people are brought together under one umbrella with the aspiration of weather being always sunny. So over a period of time, the focus has been laid primarily to map the economics of demand and supply and executing the same, and with the growth-oriented organizations. The focus has also been laid on conducting competition analysis by keeping abreast of market trends and competitive moves on all key events and property signings, which has helped us to be or create the motivating factor and raise the bar every time. I'm actually a strong believer of plan, do, check and act, and brands who have leveraged sports with the above mechanism and have utilized sports in any form as a medium have only benefited themselves to have a magnified reach and acceptance over any other traditional medium.
That sounds good, sir. So essentially the intention behind this podcast is for our clients, for potential customers to try to understand what exactly it is that we do as a business in this company. And since you have such tremendous experience in the field, we were wondering if there's one particular anecdote or event that comes to your mind that you can use to best illustrate to our listeners what exactly is it that ITW does for teams and companies.
ITW, since the inception, while I have associated, has always thrived in mentioning to our clients as investment and not cost for any kind of on-ground media asset we have in the offing for them. It is only the return on investment made that can be measured and not the cost. And that's the shrewdest core of any partnership that we engage in. So that's the core essence which we kind of deploy and put across to our clients. This particular outlook, Ashwin, has immensely helped ITW. I fondly call during our client pitches as ITW stands for investment that works. and after obviously we have been able to understand the DNA of the desired brand communication and amalgamate them with our on-ground hybrid assets during any international, bilateral or league fixtures, given the rights bestowed upon us. We at ITW, along with our partners across the world and while liaising with various cricket boards, have been pioneers in adapting animated output for brands to develop the aesthetics of their positioning and further have helped them to establish enhanced brand salience with continued engagement.
Sounds good, sir. So essentially, now we'll move on to another question where, so ITW in the realm of sports sponsorship has been leading the way for several years now, and you've been part of that entire journey. Mm-hmm. And you've also been involved in several landmark deals. According to you, what processes, innovations, and best practices are put in place in the company that you feel like helps the firm operate so successfully in this space of sports sponsorship?
Right, interesting. So, as I mentioned earlier, it's all about the solution-oriented approach and customizing the overall output on the available on-ground LED or static assets what we have. And we have always tried to create disruption in the industry and have always worked towards challenging the status quo by innovating and co-creating value propositions for or with our partner brands. I mean, just to give you an example, there was a brand, it's a mobile wallet brand called Oxygen. Well, the last 2 years have been a little difficult for the OXYGEN. We are talking about OXIGEN. And we were successful in placing them on the New Zealand and the South African jersey when they visited India. The disruption here was Paytm was the title sponsor, and this particular branding exercise transpired during that period. About 6-7 years back was a case study to look upon. Beyond this, I could probably talk about a brand called Amul, which is fondly known as the Taste of India, and we are proud to have them, get them to be positioned on the New Zealand cricket team jersey, the Black Caps, during the ICC Champions Trophy 2017, which was held in England and Wales, wherein New Zealand is the largest dairy producer in the world. So, Taste of India on a team which has got that. It was a landmark achievement, which I would say, where ITW struck that deal, and we got into a cohesive environment to scale up. So, I mean, on an overall perspective, if you ask me, creating a paradigm shift, leveraging and inculcating technical and LED solutions for various brands across categories, predominantly B2C focused brands, which lies ahead. And we also have successfully devised ideas and integrations with B2B brands too, adapting on their aspirations. And during the overall course in the last 6 to 7 years, we have seen a tremendous growth and opportunity with global sports tourism, wherein we have been able to partner with numerous cricket boards and the division under the global sports tourism at ITW is ITW Go, wherein we have successfully executed trade or consumer activation with our partner brands and take them to exotic cricket playing nations and offering them a money can't buy experience, being at the most exciting venues around the globe.
Absolutely, sir. So that sounds really interesting, especially when you consider how you guys have been able to create value in a lot of avenues that didn't exist before, right? Like I think the example of Oxygen and Amula perfectly illustrate how ITW has gone in and sort of created value for companies that who would have ever thought that a New Zealand team would be wearing an Indian sponsor on their jersey, and that just goes to show the type of businesses we engage in. And in our conversations, in the office and stuff, you've also mentioned a lot of unique activations that you've been a part of. So if you can just elaborate a little bit on this specifically and what the process is of how ITW is able to come up with these tailor-made solutions for each company and client?
Yeah, can cite many unique activations that we have been able to engage our partner brands with. However, something very close to my heart is how we have been able to develop the Czech automaker Skoda in India to exponentiate the market reach and salience amongst shrewd competition in the automotive category in the country. We were given and we're being empowered to leverage the Simply Clever motto which they had. And we have been able to implement something unique, something clever. During every series they have partnered with us over the last decade until now, leveraging international. Whether it was having 4 different models of the Skoda cars, moving on the LED perimeter signages simultaneously, wherein other brands would have just looked forward to place their logo, which was a never done before experience which we created as an activation with the Skoda Flogos, which are like flying logos made up of foam and flying in thin air, and disintegrates after a period of time. During the Asia Cup 2018 in the UAE, attempting to have a 3D printed car, taking it to the United States, Caribbean islands, and many others. Few other fond clients we have worked with to create some magic are with Sri Lankan Airlines during the Nedahas Trophy in 2018, celebrating 70 years of Sri Lankan independence, Sri Lankan cricket's independence, and celebrating the 70th anniversary of Sri Lankan cricket, and them being the official airlines partner, which was a no-brainer. Cabin Care Group recently with the Indica Easy, Take It Easy, exclusive third umpire branding. So if a batsman gets out, take it easy. Doesn't get out, the fielding team should take it easy. And the umpires can take it easy while the decision is being made on the giant screen for the entire world to witness. So beyond these, with some more memorable moments which we have experienced with brands like Zoho One, Gulf Oil, Bank of Baroda, Pepe Jeans, Amazon Pay, among others, with whom I have been able to partner and create some good work together.
So just coming back, I think we discussed before we started recording, we were talking about the Sri Lankan Airlines activation, and I think that's such a unique opportunity for us to be a part of such a big event. You actually described it to me in detail what the activation was about, if you can just talk about that.
Yeah, so it was more about Sri Lankan Airlines because it was Sri Lanka's 70th anniversary, 70th independence anniversary, so Independence Day per se, and Sri Lankan, so it was all about celebrating.
Right.
Normally what happens is when the umpire calls for it, he says, let's play. So we kind of tweaked it and it was all about celebration. So we put up on the giant screen with a countdown where before each and every inning we had 10, 9 and the countdown till 1, and it was, rather than saying let's play, it was let's celebrate, and it was enthused with the adaptation over the course of time, wherein it came across to the commentators in a very vanilla manner that this is how the countdown is, the camera panned onto it, and it was let's celebrate, let's play, let's celebrate. So it was interesting.
Absolutely. So I think the reason I brought that up is that obviously there is the commercial benefits of doing this, but also in terms of like the overall meaning and the connection that everybody has to sport is such an emotional one at times, and it's so interesting to see that companies have recognized that finally, and they're tapping people like us to help them service those specific sort of ideas. So along those lines, moving forward, what potential avenues do you see being key focus areas for the company, for you, that could help propel sports sponsorship in the world to further heights, considering the journey that you've had in the past 10 years? Where do you see it going in the next 10 years?
Nice. So, quote unquote, about 80% of world cricket, which we have been able to encompass, consulting in the sporting environment, leveraging the sport of cricket predominantly across various partnerships with the right holders. We would want to obviously venture into, we have laid our hands with the Pro Kabaddi League and different cricket leagues around the world as well. We would definitely want to venture much more in a much more stronger manner with global rugby, with global soccer, which has got a lot of commercial importance in due course. I mean, they have been reaping benefits, brands and the right holders who have engaged. So ITW as a whole, we would want to, being a global organization as we are today and recognized all over the world, we would definitely want to venture into this, wherein if we have to come back to cricket per se, among several other nations, the newest ones, Afghanistan, and the recent, along with them, were the Irish men's cricket, Cricket Ireland, who have got their test status, and it needs some upliftment. While we have understood, yes, the last 2 years across the world has been very difficult for everyone to take it up, but cricket as a sport is still not cherished as much as we would have expected. But as a test playing nation, we need to up the ante, and while they have been performing really well in the recent times, we need some sponsors coming in and engaging. So I personally, whoever are listening to this, a big shout out to all of them to come and support Cricket Ireland.
Absolutely.
And they have already got themselves across to the ICC World T20 2022 qualification, and they're going to be playing that. So while our ITW team across different verticals will be reaching out to you in the coming days and months for the upcoming sports calendar. So we look forward to doing some more magic together in the years to come, while the masks are slowly getting off from our earlobes and we can breathe easily. So let's get some commerce in, a lot of sponsors in, a lot of activation, innovation, and great times ahead.
Sounds good. So thank you so much for your time, and we hope you enjoyed listening. We'll be right back.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing to this podcast. We are available on all leading platforms including Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon, and Pocket Cast. Please share it with others and leave us a rating and a review. This podcast was written and presented by me, Ashwin Vijay Kumar. Sound mixing and editing for this episode was done by Dheeraj P. Rao. The executive producer of the ITW podcast is Tariq Laskar. Our research team includes Devanshu Bhatt, Vaisak Raj, Vidushi Bandari, Riya Nandi, and Kishan Mundra. Visit us at itwglobal.com. ITW Soundworx.